Olá, este é o Poder Entrevista. Eu sou Paulo Silva Pinto, editor sênior do Poder360. Vou entrevistar o embaixador da Ucrânia no Brasil, Andrii Melnyk. Andrii Melnyk tem 47 anos. Nasceu em Lviv, Ucrânia, que na época era uma república soviética. Formou-se em Direito na Universidade de Lund, na Suécia. É doutor em Direito pela Academia de Ciências em Kiev, na Ucrânia. Foi embaixador da Ucrânia na Alemanha de 2015 até 2022. Desde setembro de 2023, é embaixador da Ucrânia no Brasil. Ambassador Andrii Melnyk, thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you so much, Mr. Silva, for inviting me.
Agradeço também a todos os web espectadores que assistem este programa. Esta entrevista está sendo gravada no estúdio do Poder360 em Brasília, em 22 de fevereiro de 2024. Para ficar sempre bem informado, inscreva-se no canal do Poder360, ative as notificações e não perca nenhuma informação relevante. A entrevista a partir de agora será em inglês. Ambassador Melnyk, we are reaching the 2 years landmark of Russian invasion of Ukrainian territory. What are the prospects of the war right now?
The main thing is that the people are still committed to fight for their statehood and to resist against this military aggression, because what is at stake for us? It is our very existence. It is the existence of the Ukrainian state. It is the existence of the Ukrainian culture and of our identity. Because Putin still wishes to destroy the statehood, the culture, and the nationhood. And that's why it's so difficult if someone is asking me, well, is Ukraine ready for any compromises? Would Ukraine be ready to sacrifice some territories which are now under Russian occupation? And it's about 20%. 20% of our soil is under Russian occupation. My answer is, especially to Brazilian friends, look, if we compare to your country, it would be like the estado do Amazônia and Acre. Would you be ready to just give up this part of your territory for an empty promise of peace that might never come? So that's the question which is in the air, and that's why it's so difficult to speak about any compromises, because what compromise can you offer if your enemy still wishes to destroy you, to devastate, to delete you basically, and erase you from the map, from the geographical map, and that is a difficulty which we have. But at the same time, people are committed. The government is in place since 2 years. The parliament is working. The economy is running. Last year we even had a slight plus after a huge drop 2022, the first year of war. So the situation is difficult because Russia has still the second biggest army in the world. Russia has a huge military complex, hundreds of factories building new weapons, millions of soldiers which can be mobilized and sent to Ukraine. So we have to do with a very strong and enemy, but again, justice and law is on our side, and that is what is most important, because we are on our soil, we are fighting for our independence, and we would hope that our Brazilian friends would help us to achieve this goal, namely to liberate not just the territory, because it sounds abstract, but the people. We have millions of Ukrainians who are hostages of that occupation regime. We have seen what can happen, what happened in Bucha, and what is happening every day in other regions of Ukraine under Russian occupation, and that is something which needs to be understood also here in Brazil, irrespective of the geographical distance.
Now, Ukrainians lost control over the city of Avdiivka, right?
Yes.
Are Russian troops likely to go further into the Ukrainian territory?
Of course, Russia has the capacity and the manpower and enough weapons now to move forward. But the question is, what price Russian soldiers have been paying, I mean, for this success. They have been trying since months, basically since 2014, because this war started 10 years ago when Russia occupied the Crimea and then started the war in the eastern part of Ukraine. So it's just the continuation of this war since 10 years. So Avdiivka was a free city close to Donetsk, and there was one of the biggest fortresses of Ukraine. Russians could not take it since years. Now they paid, even according to their own estimates, at least 16,000 soldiers have died in this battle of Avdiivka. Just for our friends here in Brazil to compare what means 16,000. That's Russian data, not ours. We think that's at least double as many that had to die for capturing the city. The Soviet Union waged a war in Afghanistan for 10 years. And official casualties were 15,000. So, and the war in Afghanistan that the Soviet Union lost because they had to withdraw. Gorbachev had to withdraw troops from Afghanistan in the end of the day, in the end of 80s. That was one of the main factors why the Soviet Union as a state collapsed, because and that was something that was not possible to speak about victims. Now we have internet. Now everyone knows what is happening then on the ground. So that's why, of course, Russians are ready to sacrifice dozens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of soldiers further to proceed. But Ukraine is ready to defend this front line, and that is just one. I mean, the front line is 1,300 kilometers long, so you can imagine. And in that part of the front, yes, they had successes. But again, you have to look at the broader picture and understand that the people of soldiers, the lives of soldiers, don't matter to Putin. He wants to achieve results. He wants to proceed. He wants basically to take even Kiev and Lviv, my native city in the western part of Ukraine. He wants to take the whole of Ukraine. Well, I mean, he might try, but I think sooner or later the price, the huge price, this bloody price that even the Russian society have been paying for this success in Avdiivka. And last year it was Bakhmut, another city that fell, is huge, is tremendous, and we hope that sooner or later, hopefully sooner, the society in Russia will wake up and will that wives and mothers of those soldiers who were sent like I don't know, without any respect, without any training to this war in Avdiivka and other cities, just to die on the battlefield or be wounded, that it will have some consequences, and we will hear the voices raised in the Russian society itself. Why are we losing our men, our people who would better build the economy in Russia than just to sacrifice them for a city which basically, I mean, they have taken the city, but the city was completely destroyed. There is not a single house that remained not ruined, and it was a city of 32,000 citizens. Now it's empty. It's just like a desert. I mean, is it worse for Russia, I mean, to be proud of taking Avdiivka? I don't think so. I think it is a victory, but it is a Pyrrhus victory. I mean, there's a victory like a King Pyrrhus who won the battle but lost the war.
What was the Ukrainian death toll in Avdiivka?
Well, I mean, our position is of our government since the very first day of this war. Not to disclose, I mean, our casualties, but I can assure you that, I mean, it is not to compare, not in the slightest way to those casualties that Russia had to sustain in this war. Of course, I mean, people have been dying and wounded Ukrainians. So it's the most terrible thing that we have, because, but we cherish. I mean, we we would like to protect the lives of soldiers, and that's why there was a decision taken to withdraw the troops, so we were not fighting till the last soldier. I mean, we were holding this city as a fortress, more or less. There were no citizens since years there. Most of them had to leave the city. But we left the fortress when the military situation was such that did not allow, that there was no more sense to hold the city of Avdiivka.
I see. Now, Ukraine depends on the approval of an extra $60 billion aid from the United States, which is stuck in Congress. If it's not approved, Ukrainians will be able to resist?
Look, if we have to compare the situation all the time. I mean, if we look at the first days and weeks and even months of this Russian invasion 2 years ago, at that time we did not have any Western weapons, so nothing. I mean, there were just American javelins, but they were not in use. We were not allowed to use them, and that was a decision of President Trump. I mean, when he was president, the United States sent those anti-tank weapons just in case if Russia would start this invasion. So we did not have anything, no modern weaponries from the Western countries, nothing, just the willingness of the people to resist. And then with some time, when times passed, our friends in the West have seen, look, I mean, Ukrainians, they don't want to give up. They love the native country. They understand that without the statehood they are lost. I mean, they will be destroyed. They had to flee. So now, and we are fighting without anything. And gradually, during the year of 2022, we have been receiving the necessary weapons, also heavy weapons like tanks, main battle tanks, and artillery, and so on, so that we could basically wage this war on an equal terms with the second biggest army of this war. So I would not like, honestly speaking, to speculate what is going to happen if the Congress would not agree and support Ukraine with this amount of money, which is huge, of course. We still hope that it will be possible to find a solution in the House of Representatives in the coming weeks. But even if something might change in the views of our American allies, who have been, and I would like to stress it, the biggest supporter of Ukraine until now in terms of weapons and also in terms of financial assistance. Our European friends, they also look at the situation very carefully, and they understand then there will be no other way. Shall there be some changes in the American stance, which we hope there will be not the case. The European Union, that's my personal perception and conviction, will try to make the contribution of the European friends bigger, so that Ukraine will not remain alone, and that is the most important thing, that we can count on our friends. Without this help, it's even hard to realize in which situation Ukraine might have been so far, but we are there. Ukrainians are ready to fight, and our friends, especially in Europe, they understand. Shall Ukraine be defeated by this aggressive Russia? That is not a good prospect for them, because no one knows which country will be the next victim of Putin, and there have been enough signals in that direction that Putin would not stop with Ukraine. Other countries, Moldova, Georgia, but even NATO countries like Baltic states, Poland, they all have been on the radar of Russia, and that's why from the point of view of our European friends, but also from the point of view of Americans, there is no other way than to help Ukrainians to continue this fight, which is a defense war, which is a war for our independence.
Now, if Donald Trump wins the election in the United States, will it be worse for Ukraine than it has been with Joe Biden, or is it neutral, or maybe better?
Well, again, I would not like to speculate because we don't know. I mean, that's the will of the American people. We don't know who will be the next president of the United States. What is important for us, and that was our experience, not just in the last 2 years of big war, of aggression that Russia has been waging, but also before, since the annexation of Crimea, that we always had bipartisan support in the Congress. So the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, they both supported Ukraine on doesn't matter what happens, who was the president. So that's something, I mean, and this consensus in a society was crucial, I mean, for us to resist and to survive as a nation so far. So we believe that not just for empathy that our American friends might have with respect to this war, to the values that for which we have been fighting, for freedom, for democratic state, but also for their own national interest. I think there will be not a good decision, I mean, to leave Ukraine alone to continue this fight. Because I mean, the whole balance, security balance in Europe and then also in the world will shift, and that is not anything that I hope our American friends would wish to have. That's why we are confident. That's something which I would like to stress today. We are confident that irrespective of the next president, the support from the United States will be continued because we have the same cause.
What is your assessment of Brazilian government actions or the lack of actions regarding this conflict?
We still hope that our Brazilian partners and friends would also understand that even though this war seems to be so far away, 12,000 kilometers away from Brasilia, even though the feeling of insecurity here is a different one in comparison to our neighbors in Europe, that this war might and will have repercussions also to Brazil, also to the Brazilian economy and to the prosperity of this country. Because if Putin succeeds to destroy the rules that were created after the Second World War, 1945, United Nations, international law, the Charter of UN, which are the basics for the prosperity also of this country, then it does not promise anything good for the world that Brazil is now trying to build a more just world, to build a world where voices of the global South are heard. So we think that that shall be kept in mind when taking the position now in this war. Well, for the time being, the Brazilian government has taken this neutral stance. We are grateful, of course, for the support at the UN, General Assembly and the Security Council, because Brazil joined the circle of other states condemning Russian aggression and demanding from Russia, that was the last resolution exactly 1 year ago, demanding Russia to withdraw the troops from Ukraine unconditionally. So that is the official political position of Brazil, and we are really grateful because it is not self-evident. We have many other countries, democratic countries of this world, which have another stance, which have been abstaining, and we cherish. We would like to say that we hope that this position will remain unchanged. But at the same time, if you go to Kyiv, and I would like to invite you and your colleagues to travel to see with your own eyes what is happening there on the ground, or in the eastern part of Ukraine, in the south, where battles are waged like in the Second World War, even on a larger scale. Then, and you would ask people, what do they think about Brazil? And most people, they will not know what to say, because they will say, look, our friends in Germany, in Poland, in the States, even in countries like Japan or South Korea and many other countries, they have been supporting us not just with words, it is important, but also with some deeds. sending weapons, helping us to defend Ukrainian cities, because what it means to send air defense systems like Germany has done. It means that missiles flying every day on Ukrainian cities and villages could not bring death and devastation. That's what counts, because the civilians have been the main target of Putin's war. Civilians, schools, museums, hospitals, that's what Putin wishes to destroy, to make Ukraine a desert. That's what it's his goal. And that's why, coming back to this question, Ukrainians are asking me, why are Brazilians not helping us? Because it's a common cause. I mean, just for the sake of humanity, that would be something that Brazil could do, because Brazil is one of the strongest economies in the world, the 10th biggest economies, and the prospects are that you will be the 8th biggest economy, and maybe even top 6 in some decades. So you are one of the strongest economies, which can allow yourself to help those whom you regard as friends. And that's why I would like to repeat this appeal to the Brazilian society, to the Brazilian community, to all people of goodwill here. Please rethink this discourse, because that will be remembered by Ukrainians, because that will go down into history if Brazil, taking the position that you have, historically speaking, we have full understanding. But to help on a human basis, if you see that schools are destroyed, why don't you send, or if there is no running water because Russians are destroying critical infrastructure, they're hitting our factories, they're hitting everything to make life impossible in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. That will not compromise this course which is rooted, of course, in the constitution of neutrality, and that will not be something that could change this position or endanger your position in the eyes of the national community. That will just help to underline this strong statement that we had in New York when Brazilian voice was on our side. And that's what matters in this war.
Is the fact that Brazilian is a BRICS founding country, is it a problem is it a hindrance, you think, for Brazil to have another stance in this war?
Well, honestly speaking, I'm trying to understand now, I mean, the whole philosophy of the Brazilian political elite. Why, and I'm asking questions. Why is this BRICS with Russia on board, an aggressive state, waging wars, breaking all the rules? Why is it so important? Why do you stick to this alliance? Well, I get different answers, but none of them, for me at least, sounds really persuasive, because I'm asking myself, well, what can this Russia contribute, I mean, to this community of BRICS, combining, of course, other countries like India and South Africa, and now there are more members joining. What contribution can this aggressive Russia make that might be valuable to Brazil? I mean, the only contribution that we see to the world order is to destroy everything which was there to us and which made economic prosperity possible, not just in Europe but also here on the continent. And I hope that there will be also some critical reassessment of this partnership, and Brazilians are proud that they have strategic partnership with Russia. That's something which I hear almost every day, meeting diplomats at Itamaraty, speaking with members of parliament. Brazilians are proud to have this partnership, and I answer, okay, well, it's your sovereign right, no one is going to question it, but at the same time there might be some consequences, because I mean Russia is still waging an aggressive war as we speak, and is not going to stop. Mm-hmm. We have now Iran on board, which was invited, and from our perspective, this country is one of the few actively helping Russia, not just with the deadly drones, which have been hitting Ukrainian cities and You can believe me, I lived in Kiev in the middle of this war. I can distinguish the sound of different drones type flying over my house, which have been detected by the air defense systems from Germany, from other friends that helped us. But now we have evidence that Iran has been sending also ballistic missiles, hundreds of pieces of ballistic missiles, which have been also now used by Russia to kill civilians. I mean, we cannot understand what might be in common with Brazil, one of the hugest democratic nations and a country which strives to be a leader, not just in the global south, but on the global stage, to be a true leader, and then having partners like Russia or Iran waging wars of aggression.
What do you think is the China's stance in this conflict?
China might play an active role, maybe even a crucial role to finish this war. Unfortunately, until now, China has not been really involved in any processes to help to persuade Putin to stop this war. Because now what it counts, I mean, what we would wish to have, I mean, we Ukrainians, our Western partners, and hopefully Brazil as well, we wish to persuade Putin to stop this madness. Now it's only possible on the battlefield because there is no readiness for any negotiations, any talks from Moscow. That's why now there might be only a military solution, which is difficult enough because the price is huge also for us. Our hope is to involve China into this process because China has most leverages to influence Putin and this Russian regime to stop this war. And that is our hope. Brazilians have excellent relations with Beijing and we have been talking also about this topic here in Brasilia, that our friends here, Temarachi and Planalto, might try to persuade the Chinese to be engaged truly in this process, because in the end of the day, shall there be any negotiations at some point, we don't know yet. I think that China might play a crucial role to persuade, or I would even put it like to force Russians to stop this war, because in the end of the day it contradicts also the interests of China in the long run. So that's our vision. But
why?
Because China has profited from the existing international legal norms and from this order to build the prosperity, to build one of the biggest economies in the world, successful, reaching out to also now to Latin American countries and being for many countries worldwide an example of successful economic development. And that was possible to a great extent because of this rule-based order that we have since '45. And that's why, from our perspective, it is not clear how China can benefit from the continuation of this process of destruction of this rule-based order, because even now you see, I mean, trade routes are blocked in the Red Sea, and prices are skyrocketing in Europe and elsewhere, and the whole world is now on alert because of some Houthi terror rebels who have been just shelling ships. I mean, how can China benefit from this kind of domino effect developments if Russia is going to succeed and further destroy? So that is our assessment, but many might not share it. But that is also our hope, a rational hope that Chinese might play a more constructive role in this process.
And regarding this demand that you made to Brazilian government so that they can help you in talks with Beijing, what was the answer that was given to you by Brazilian government?
I mean, the talks are, as far as I understand, they are ongoing because there are many forums where these discussions take place, not just within the BRICS community, but also on a bilateral scale. So we hope that Brazilians, which might also play a role here, and there have been voices that Brazil would like to create this group of friends of peace and in order to start some process and to achieve results. And result would be, I mean, Putin has started this war without being provoked, and that's why he might stop it anytime. He might stop it tomorrow or maybe 10 minutes later after our conversation, and he would be ready to explain to his society that he has won the war because he has achieved this and that goal. So it is just a matter of the power of persuasion, and Brazilians, together with the Chinese partners, could achieve this goal, because our Western partners, they did not see any chance. I mean, the Americans, the Europeans, they did not want to engage in any discussions with Putin, because Putin is a liar. Putin does not fulfill any commitments and promises that he has given. That's why that is a stance of our Western partners. That it doesn't make any sense to speak with them. But Brazilians have their own channels to the Kremlin. The Chinese, other countries, which and that's our hope. That's our hope, that we would like to see a genuine initiative from Brasilia with some other countries to help us stop this barbarism. This barbarism has to be stopped because it is unimaginable. I mean, the scale of suffering of Ukrainians in this war cannot be compared with anything, because that is the most bloody war since 1945, at least on the European continent. It's the bloodiest war that we have.
Now, President Lula said in April 2023 that Ukraine was as much guilty for the war as Russia. What was the effect of this phrase in your assessment?
I mean, it doesn't make now any sense to comment on that statement. What counts for us for the time being is that after the meeting of the two presidents in New York last September, and I was really happy as an ambassador that we could achieve, just 3 weeks I was here in office, we could finally arrange this meeting. It was not easy during the General Assembly. And the conversation was a good one. I mean, it was not an easy conversation, but I think both sides were after this they were satisfied with the outcome, and at least we had a feeling that we can move forward. That there will be now really a new start, a restart of our bilateral relations as well, because what has been missing here is that there were no visits from Brazil for many years, but especially since the beginning of this great war that Russia started against Ukraine. Not a single Brazilian politicians or member of the government or president has been to Kyiv. And we hope that might change. We hope that President Lula could pay a visit to Kyiv. Last time he was in our capital, it was almost 15 years ago. It was another epoch, another times, just to see, because only if you have been there, if you have seen with your eyes what is happening, if you would talk to the government, but also to the people, to the society, then you can have another feeling what can be done, and how Brazil and other partners here in the global south could act in order to stop this war. So that's now where we stand. Half a year has passed, and then there has not been much progress. Unfortunately, we hope that we could arranged a number of visits that the two presidents agreed, but still we are waiting for a green light from Brasilia, for my foreign minister to come and meet Minister Mauro Vieira and start discussing issues which are on the table. How to end this war, what Brazilian contribution can be, and of course to renew the economic ties, because of the war, our trade is now, especially our exports to Brazil, are non-existent, because the Black Sea was blocked by the Russian Navy. The transportation cost rose dramatically, so it doesn't make any economic sense to sell goods to Brazil because of this war. So those are issues that we would like to discuss and find ways how to compensate, because Ukraine was not the biggest partner of Brazil in terms of trade, investment, but still it is not to compare what we have now in the middle of this war, and that's what we have. We would like to restart our dialogue.
Could Brazil play any role in terms of being a broker for peace, more than supporting you?
Well, I think so. That has been my message from the very first day of my work here in Brasilia as an ambassador. And the hope is still there, because what Brasilia has, it's a huge soft power. I mean, you have respect from the whole national community. You have the capacity. I mean, your diplomacy is one of the best in the world. You have capable negotiators, ambassadors who might be ready and hopefully willing to take this task seriously and really start this process. But what is needed in that sense is a true engagement. That means, in order to be even a broker or a mediator or to play any other active role to stop this war, Brazil has to be engaged more. And this engagement was, as I mentioned already, was not in place because you need to talk, you need to travel, you need to invite Ukrainians here, and maybe the same with Russians, but it's another story. And then, and only in this case, you can understand two sides, and you can look for ways what can be done in order maybe to restore some trust, because for the time being the main problem is complete lacking of any trust with respect to Putin, to Russia. And you cannot trust them, and if there might be any agreements in the future, I mean, there should be at least some minimum of trust. And that's what Brazilians might do. I mean, to start engaging, to start speaking, traveling, shuttle diplomacy shall be a key word in that sense, and to understand, to match, to see. I mean, it's still possible. There was not much in that sense until now, but Brazil is capable and hopefully willing to really engage more than it has been the case until now.
When is the foreign minister visit will be possible to be in Brasilia?
Well, we are waiting for this invitation. The two ministers talked a couple of weeks ago on the phone, and I asked my minister, well, so did Minister Vieira propose the date? And the answer was no. So we hope that this visit could take place in the coming months. Because last time it was always more than 10 years ago that we had even exchange on this level, and you have to start talking. You have to start, Brazilians should try to understand us better, because without this basic understanding, I mean, you can dream about this special role of broker. It will not be possible, because you need to have engagement. I used to be in Germany as an ambassador. In Germany and France were two mediators in the so-called Normandy format after the annexation of Crimea between 2014 and 22. Yes, that has not been maybe a success that we have imagined, that because this war could not be prevented. That's a tragedy, but it is another. But at the same time, there have been almost 1,000 rounds of negotiations with the Russians on board in Kiev, in Berlin, in Paris, in Minsk. I mean, in many places. So constant rounds of expert groups, and that was something that was valuable, because now Germans they have another understanding. Now, if you would like to know what is happening in Ukraine, you would not call some Eastern European countries, but you would call Berlin to us, because they have the expertise. They have this ability also to analyze what might be done, and that is my wish, my personal wish, that Brazil, with your global ambitions, shall be engaged more to understand us better, and then you will come up with some solutions that might fly, that might be realized, and might help us to finish this war.
Now, Brazil and Ukraine had a strong some reasonable cooperation in a given time. There was even a joint venture for satellites. What happened?
That has been one of the most important projects that Ukraine had abroad, not just with Brazil, but with all other countries. Some 15 years ago, this project was cancelled, could not be realized, and that is a pity, because this joint venture that was created, and that was a project agreed by the two governments. President Lula was in Kiev last time in December 2009, and this Alcantara, that was the name of this project, Alcantara project was the cornerstone of our partnership, which was agreed at that time. And I would like to also to remember to the Brazilian audience that it was President Lula and Ukrainian President Yushchenko at the time who signed a declaration about strategic partnership, and one of the fundaments of that partnership should have been this project, which unfortunately could not be realized. That is a pity, but for us, it is not a reason to stop working further. So now we are looking for similar possibilities in the sphere of again, space, building planes together is also something which might be discussed, because Brazil is one of the biggest nations and players in that sense, and Ukraine has always been a key player with Antonov planes, which I mean, this factory is still there, developing now new types of planes.
Are you dealing with this
yeah,
kind of
I mean,
thing?
no, we're trying now to sense, to have a feeling where we can match our interest, and I think that would be also a natural alliance if not just Embraer but other players in this field could see the chances that Ukraine might bring, and to see what can be done, because not just for civil aviation but also in terms of military. I mean, Brazil is one of the biggest producers of weaponries worldwide. Ukraine now, especially because of this war, we have gained unique experience in terms of modernizing our army, modernizing our air defense system, new types of weapons like drones, and we have seen this is a war of drones, because drones might even play a decisive role in the end of the day, and Ukraine has a unique experience in that sense. Of course, Brazil has other security issues, but I mean, this very painful experience cannot be ignored by our Brazilian friends, and we would like to stretch our hand and to propose to continue a defense dialogue that was started 3 years ago, before the war, and now we're trying to revive it, because I mean, Brazil would need to have access, I mean, to the experience, which is a very sad one because of this war, but Ukraine is now, unfortunately, at the forefront of many new developments in this warfare, and I think it's just one of the very few things where we can try to find some common interest.
Looking in perspective, before the war, were there any mistakes by Ukrainians that resulted in the country being more vulnerable to Russia than it was realized?
It's difficult to say, especially as long as this war is ongoing. Mm-hmm. Of course, there will be a reassessment of why this war could not be prevented, and of course now if we look back, and Ukrainians are a peaceful nation, we never waged any wars against our neighbors in our history, never, but probably we have been for a long time, especially in the 90s and some 15-20 years ago, that we were too naive and we were not preparing ourselves better for a possible war from the Russian neighbors, but it's not easy now to say, because what counts now is that we need to stop this war, and but what I would like to say here, because there are many fairy tales which you might hear that, well, Ukrainians are just a marionette of some Western powers, and this war is basically waged not between Ukraine and Russia, which has invaded, but between the Western and Russia, and we are just a playground and a battlefield. So all these fairy tales, they have no substance, because unfortunately Russia still wants to destroy Ukraine, and I think that the common task also with our Brazilian friends shall be to signal to Putin, look, we will not allow that you can have success in Ukraine, because that would be a terrible message, not just for Europe, not just for our neighbors, but for the whole war, and that's what counts. And mistakes, of course, we are humans. Everyone makes mistakes. What counts is that those mistakes that you analyze and that you understand those mistakes in order to omit them in the future, and that is our approach.
What's your assessment of President Lula's statement that the war in Gaza is equivalent to the Holocaust in some ways?
Well, I would not be willing to interfere in this very difficult discussion between Brazil and Israel, because two countries are our friends. Mm-hmm. The only thing I can tell is that, I mean, for Ukrainians, Holocaust is something which is part of our history and part of our DNA, because every fourth Jew who died, who was killed during the Holocaust, lived in Ukraine, on the Ukrainian soil. So that is a part of our history, and that's why for us it is a sacred thing. It is the biggest crime in the human history against the Jewish population, and that's why I would be rather silent and would not like to comment this issue.
Ambassador Andrii Melnyk, thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you, Mr. Silva.
Agradeço também a todos os web espectadores que assistiram este programa. Essa entrevista foi gravada no estúdio do Poder 360 em Brasília, em 22 de fevereiro de 2024. Para ficar sempre bem informado, inscreva-se no canal do Poder 360, ative as notificações e não perca nenhuma informação relevante. Muito obrigado e até a próxima.
Poder Monitor. Acesse agora e ganhe 30 dias grátis.